When Silent Hill F was initially announced, it, for the most part, got a positive response. There were even people that made comments like, oh, this reminds me of Fatal Frame. And granted, there was a little slight annoyance to some of us where we're like, hey, there's a little bit more to Fatal Frame than just female protagonists in a Japanese setting. But damn, I'm off the rails already. We just started this video and I'm already losing my damn mind. As I was saying, everybody was positive for the most part, but there was a demographic, a small portion of people that were like, hey, this is not Silent Hill. It doesn't take place in Silent Hill. The setting is off. Usually it takes place in a Western environment, and now we're switching it up. So this is something different. Why don't they call it something else? That's not really an unreasonable question. I can't fault anyone for asking that question. It doesn't take place in Silent Hill, so how can it be Silent Hill? But maybe part of that answer is just that the location is only one aspect to what makes Silent Hill so special. Ladies and gentlemen, if you're new to the channel, hi, I'm Ryofu. You're watching The Gaming Harbinger. We talk about gaming news, anime news. We also do reviews on games. We also do review on anime. And also occasionally I do cover anime conventions. If any of that sounds remotely intriguing to you, please consider subscribing. So before we get started, I do kind of want to line this up so you can follow all the things that I'm going to cover in this video, because there is quite a bit. So the first thing is I'm going to have this brief section called Don't Be Me. I'm going to have a little rant. For the most part, this is going to be fun, so don't get annoyed by this. Next, we will talk about my general overall opinion of the game. Then we will briefly discuss some of the disingenuous approaches to this game. Now, I will warn you, sections of this will be a little controversial, but I feel like this is kind of one of those things that I can't avoid, so I'm going to have to talk about this for a little bit. But in comparison to other YouTubers, this is going to be on the tamer side, so I really feel like you don't have anything to worry about. And finally, we'll get to, of course, the story, the graphics and the aesthetics, the art style, voice acting, puzzles. I'm going to talk about all that. And last and certainly not least, we will definitely cover the combat in this game. So I wanted to start off with this section first, telling you, please don't be me. For the love of God, don't be me. And I'm being playful when I say this, but I am also giving this as a cautionary tale. So there I was, minding my own business, and I let the internet get in my head. And around the time when this game came out, some people were like, oh, the game is too easy, so don't play story because story means easy. I don't know why it got in my head, and I was like, oh, that is weird. Story, if you're saying story mode or difficulty story, then you're saying you're focusing on the story, and a lot of games, of course, do this. But every game is different. And you can't judge it with the barometer of what the standards of another game is. At least you can't do that all the time. So I played the game on hard. And oh my God, it was an effing nightmare. It did get better eventually, but there were moments, especially at the beginning, I was like, I don't think I'm going to make it. And I'm just one of those people, I'm weird. I don't like changing the difficulty once you commit to something. So I was being extremely stubborn. And I will just say one of the earlier bosses, and I'm not talking about a mini boss, so that will give you a hint because I don't want to spoil any parts of this game. I want anyone that hasn't played it, I still want them to check this out. But one of the iconic bosses, we'll say, in this game, phenomenal boss, looks so badass, so sick. Oh, I wanted to lose my mind. Like, it literally scarred me. Because that was a struggle. That was a nightmare. It was a nightmare. And yeah, I've never recovered since. I have not been normal since that day. So what the heck am I trying to tell you? I'm trying to tell you, Play it on story if you want to play it on story. It's normal. That's what I got out of playing through it on hard. Playing on story mode is normal. They just worded it differently for this game. Why? I have no idea. And honestly, after going through what I went through, I don't care. I don't give a damn. Just don't start off with hard, is what I'm trying to say. You should start off with story. Okay, enough acting like a maniac. Let's get into the general thoughts of the game. This was almost my game of the year. Let that sink in. There are so many things that are near perfection. The only game I loved absolutely everything about last year was 100 Line Last Defense Academy. What a genius game, bro. I mean, come on. It hurts my soul that this game is pretty much, I don't want to say go virtually unnoticed, because obviously the fans and people that play Danganronpa, they're going to love this shit. But it hurts my soul that it should just be so much more. It should be so much bigger. But anyways, this is about Silent Hill F. I need to calm down. So going back to Silent Hill F, there are so many things it does right. But ultimately, one of my few problems with the game, because there really isn't many, but one of the few problems is something that is a big part of the game. And we'll get to that. But another way to look at this is, you know what? Second place is not bad. That's not a bad place at all. Even the flaws were not enough to stop me from loving this game. What a powerful story told in a unique way. Now, I would like to get to some of that controversial stuff, and I'm going to be mindful not to ruin any main parts, big reveals in the story. And I'm going to be honest with you, I don't want this to be the focus and the driving force of the video. I want it to be about the game as a whole, but I just feel compelled to share my opinion on this stuff because the dust is settled at this point. But, I remember some of the discourse when this game first came out, and I just feel like I have to give my 2 cents. Now, for me personally, and I think others would probably agree with me, that the story is one of the main driving forces for this game. It is one of the main focal points, one of the strongest parts of this game. So without giving away main parts of the story, some gamers feel this is a game that has an agenda. Hinako is just some tough chick in a game where men are the bad guys and traditional values are under attack, I guess. I don't know. We definitely live in a time where people take issue with ideas that are different from theirs. But let's start here. This is a story written by Ryukishi07, and my bad if I'm saying that incorrectly or poorly. This person is a Japanese writer, not a Western writer forcing you to see things in a certain lens. Also, you can tell who has played the game and who hasn't. Hinako isn't this overly confident female protagonist. She is a person that comes from a different time period than us, the 1960s to be exact. And throughout playing the game, she never comes off as arrogant. She never comes off as full of herself. She comes off as someone that's just trying to make it, someone that's just trying to survive and learn about herself and grow as a person. I think for some people, they experience one cocky or arrogant female protagonist in a video game, and then they feel like, whatever it is, a couple months later, they come across another game that has a female lead, and they're like, oh, I've seen this before. I know where this is going. And they think all the female leads are like that. Now, don't get it twisted. I get it. I know that sometimes we play games, and I'm not saying there's never been a poorly written female character. I'm not saying that at all. And I'm not saying that we haven't had games that came off a little preachy or a little heavy-handed. All those things are true. But what I'm also telling you is that you got to view things by a case-by-case basis and not be so heavy-handed that you just write off everything that is not what you're used to seeing. And because it's not what you're used to experiencing, you're like, yeah, I'm not even giving this a chance. I've seen this coming a mile away. Are you sure? And I know that there are some people that say, hey, well, I'm a dude. I can't play as a female character. I just don't feel comfortable with that. I can't relate to this character, blah, 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 blah. I personally don't get that at all. But my thing is, if you feel so strongly about that, like that's your stance, you are totally allowed to feel that way. But just keep that in mind. There's some people that are in the reverse situation as you. There are people that have had to play thousands and thousands and thousands of video games where they're in AAA games as a generic male. So just keep that in mind, and they don't feel as comfortable, or they just have to deal, you know? There's a lot of people that feel that they can only relate to people that are similar to them, or they can only play as a character that looks close to them or whatever. I understand that's a thing, and there's people out there that are like that. Yeah, that's fine. Not every experience that differs from yours is an agenda. But for the people that really think this game in particular is infusing politics or trying to make you despise men or traditional values, you clearly didn't play the game. This is very representative of a time period that once took place. And I mean, that's essentially what art is. You know, art does reflect reality. But at the end of the day, it's just a story. It's just someone's story that they created, but does reflect aspects of reality. If somehow I got to see a rough draft of this game, my first thought would not have been, oh, you know, they're going against this, or they're trying to make a statement towards certain values that we have. I would say, I wouldn't even think that. I would just say, damn, this girl, she needs new friends and she needs a new family ASAP. Now that I ruffled some feathers, let's dig into the story. Hinako is a high school student that lives on the countryside with her family. Her father is clearly an alcoholic, an angry one at that. Now, her mother is definitely a victim to domestic abuse. In fact, at the beginning of the story, it kind of starts with the dad getting really upset at Hinako, and then the mother kind of trying to jump in and protect Hinako and just say, hey, go run an errand, get these groceries, and come back later, get out of here. So she leaves the house and decides to meet up with her friends. During this hangout, the group bumps into a creature with the Shiramuku who engulfs the entire town in fog and chaos. During this time, Hinako is just reacting to the environment and trying to find her friends. One of her friends loses their life due to being attacked by red spider lilies. It's at this moment that Hinako will sometimes lose consciousness and appear in an alternate reality. And for a time, memories and reality will begin to blur. Being that this is a Silent Hill game, the game does leave breadcrumbs for you to follow and hints throughout the game. There's definitely symbolism in all of this. Some of it's more obvious than others, but it's done at a slow, methodical pace that keeps you curious and engaged. And sometimes it leaves you with more questions than answers. I don't think this is like a controversial statement what I'm about to say, but I really, really do encourage you to play this game with the Japanese audio track because the performances are phenomenal. In fact, I believe, what was it at the Video Game Awards? I think the Japanese voice actor for Hinako, she was up for an award. Obviously, she didn't win, but you can't win them all. Anyhow, you should still play this with the Japanese audio track because I think that just elevates everything to another level. I think it just makes it a more visceral experience. So I played this on the Series X, and I will say, for the most part, the graphics look really good. They look really nice, but there were performance issues, and I don't believe Series X is alone in this. And I was playing, I want to say at like 4K, 30 frames a second, but there were definitely moments on multiple occasions where there was stuttering and stopping and stuttering, and it's unfortunate that happens. I know for some people the amount might be at that point where they're like, yeah, I don't like this, that's not cool. But for me, it wasn't to the point where it pissed me off, but I was just so engaged with the story and the characters that it didn't bother me. And then there's a lot of times, the game isn't high octane action, so you can get away with this. There's only times when you're really like, you screw up and you're trying to run and dodge, counter, and there's more than one enemy. I would say those are the moments when you can see the stuttering. But another area that the game truly shines is its art direction. I love the enemies that are they're like a bunch of dolls all smushed together into one, and they will they'll hopscotch their way to you, and kind of adorable, kind of disturbing though too. But then there's also another variation of this enemy where I think it spits like poisonous stuff or venom at you or whatever. But this one is more like human bodies, so it looks more disturbing, I guess. Just absolutely badass designs. And the scarecrows, man, that was another one. Just all the enemies look awesome. There's even one that's a mini boss, and we'll just say it's essentially having babies and just disturbing stuff. But man, this art department, they just get busy. They ain't playing with you, clowns. They ain't playing with you. I mean, just good stuff all around, very dark. So I want to take a moment to dig into the combat. Now, I will warn you guys that this isn't like a one-to-one, like, oh, it's going to play just like the Silent Hill 2 remake. That is not the case. So they took some chances, they took some risk, and you guys have heard me say this 1,000 times on the channel, one of my main critiques, for years has been regarding Fatal Frame. Well, in this game, you can see they took chances, they took risk. Do they pay off? I think some things did pay off, and there's some things that did not pay off. For one, they did add a countering system, which I am not a fan of, but we will come back to that later. So there are 3 meters you have in the game: health, stamina, and sanity. So health is what is obviously implied. Stamina affects running, dodging, and countering. And then we have a sanity meter. Now this meter is a double-edged sword. You can use it to slow down enemy movements, so you have more time to counter. It also helps you to get away from enemies. And also there will be little sequences, like, I guess you could call them like chase sequences. And you will need the sanity meter to escape, because pretty much it's like Hinako's losing her damn mind. And, there's just red everywhere. And if you don't make it, something will overtake you. Whatever that may be, who knows? Now, there is another use for the sanity meter, but I won't reveal that now because that will be a spoiler. But it does have another use later on in the game. But I would also add that the sanity meter isn't something you should be like overly concerned with, because it does sound bad when you're like, damn, I got to watch out for these 3 meters. And then this one, if it gets too low, the sanity meter, if it goes too low, then it's over. And it should never be like something that overwhelms you or you become overly paranoid over. I think as long as you pace yourself with the stamina and you learn how to counter, I think for the most part, you'll be fine. So the way you counter in this game is you'll see a red flash, or some might describe it more as you'll see a red silhouette over the enemy, and then that's when you need to press the button to counter. So in this game, it's more about like not so much you waiting for your weapon to connect to another character or an enemy, but it's more about reacting to the silhouette or the flash. So to me, it's extremely jarring. If you do the counter correctly, you'll hear a gong sound and it'll immediately follow up with your attack interrupting the enemy's attack. Now, there is a certain section in the game where they decide to shake things up, and I don't want to spoil it for anyone, so we'll be careful with the wording, but we'll just say you get some new abilities that almost make you overpowered. And there are stipulations to the abilities, of course. You can't just use them nonstop, and these abilities actually tie into a major part of the story. So it all makes sense, really. And I've read critiques towards this, some people not liking this section of the game and how these certain abilities work. But to me, I found it absolutely satisfying. I love this section of the game because it did make you feel like a badass. It did make you feel like, okay, finally, Hinako has something that makes her an absolute monster. Literally, no pun intended whatsoever. But man, I was grateful for that. But maybe that's because your boy was playing on hard. That might be what it is. I was able to unleash my frustrations on those enemies. I was like, oh, I remember you. You're getting it today, baby. You getting it. There is a new concept where you collect these tablets for buffs in the game, and you also have to upgrade health and stamina at save stations. Sometimes you may have to offer faith. That's what they call it in this game. Sometimes you may have to offer faith and pray in order to cleanse your sanity. And this is just another thing that you have to do at these save stations. There are tablets that give you more health and stamina, but then there are also tablets that give you like a bigger evade window or slightly restore sanity after a perfect dodge, or even weapon durability will not decrease during focus time. Now, some of these tablets, you're going to just find them randomly throughout the game, but there's going to be other tablets. There's another section where you can buy tablets, but of course the kicker is that it's random. So you don't know what you get until you purchase it, and then they give it to you, and then you get to see what it is. So sometimes it could be something you totally don't want. And then if so, then yeah, you just have to keep going through some of them, because what'll end up happening is eventually you'll get to a point where some stuff will be replaced by older tablets and you're like, okay, I want these two. So for the most part, the puzzles are interesting. I wouldn't say they're going to blow your mind, but they're good. Now, I will be straight up and say, in comparison to Silent Hill 2 Remake, the puzzles are almost there, almost as good, but not quite. But I will say, like, for example, one of the ones I liked from this game was the Scarecrow one. And this is pretty early into the game, where you have to figure out which one is the good Scarecrow. And I do say good in air quotes because these guys look sick. They look pretty disturbing, but you have to find the good one. And if you don't find the good one, you're just going to be fighting for a while, which is an absolute pain. If you can't tell already, I obviously really like this game. I especially liked it enough if I'm saying it's like my number 2 game of 2025. So yeah, there's some flaws and stuff, but there's a lot of things I like in this game. I just love the way the story unfolds, and there's just breadcrumbs left for you to follow, and how things are revealed to you over time. And a lot of things aren't what they seem to be. There's definitely a lot of symbolism, and you can tell, especially once you play the game, a second or a third time, you're like, oh, this is what this means. I didn't get that initially. It is a game that you'll have to play multiple times through to get a full understanding of, the lore and parts of the story. I want to share something with you guys, a story that I came across recently, something I did not know until very recently, and that is Silent Hill was inspired and influenced by the 1990 movie Jacob's Ladder. If you enjoy Silent Hill games and you watch this movie, you won't be disappointed. It's really good. It's definitely dated, and this is 1990, so it was quite a while ago. I never watched this, oddly enough, but it's really good. And it's sad, it's dark, it's depressing, Puella depressing, but I think it's one of those stories that, what is meant to happen, happens the way it should. Like there was no better outcome. And it's kind of one of those things, like I guess you could say it was for the best. If you watch this movie, you can tell, like, wow, Silent Hill was very influenced by this, very inspired by this movie. Now I go back, you play a Silent Hill game, you're like, okay, this is very Jacob's Ladder coded. Like, it all makes sense. You could just tell the way the story is presented, or even you could argue the things that are not explained, the unexplained, and how things are left up for interpretation. And maybe you are meant, with Jacob's Ladder, you're meant to watch it multiple times and then things make even more sense to you. And that's similarly how you play a Silent Hill game.
What's that?
The kid dropped it off.
Who, Jed?
No, the little one.
Eli. Why can't you remember their names?
They're weird names.
They're biblical names. They were prophets.
Well, personally, I never went for church names.
You look like an angel, Louis. Like an overgrown cherub. Anyone ever tell you that?
Yeah, you. Every time I see you.
You're a lifesaver, Louis.
I know.
If we're going to be completely honest, we should just say that Jacob's Ladder is the true Silent Hill movie. Or maybe we got it all wrong and we should say that Silent Hill is the true Jacob's Ladder game. Who knows? I don't know. Just like any other Silent Hill game, this one has multiple endings. In fact, I would say it's going to take more than one playthrough to have a better grasp at what the story really means. Of course, I am saying this under the assumption that you are avoiding spoilers and reading stuff on the internet. But I will say, if you have read some parts or some things have been spoiled, it still will be an interesting ride for you. Because at the end of the day, that is part of Silent Hill's charm, is that there's plenty of room for interpretation. And then when you go in for a second or third playthrough, things are changed, slightly altered, more things are revealed in the story. So it is definitely at least worth a second playthrough. So as much as I was wowed with this game, it's time for us to break into the section where we talk about the things I didn't like. And one of them, it's the massive elephant in a room that you can't avoid. Or that big monster that's having babies everywhere. And okay, we'll stop. Take that joke out. Take it out. For some, this is a deal breaker. Not for me, apparently. It will take more than that to stop my love. But what I described to you earlier is exactly what I don't like. You know what I was saying earlier about, like, you have to counter when you see that red silhouette over the enemy or that red flash? Well, the thing with that is I want to counter when the blade is close to coming in front of me or whatever it is. I'm using a blade as an example, like a Rise of the Ronin reference or something. But I want to be able to see that, and then I know, okay, clearly now I counter. But I don't want to counter when the enemy is running towards me. That doesn't make any sense to me because their blade is not even raised to me. And that's essentially what you have to do in this game. You have to preemptively counter before you see anything. And I know some people might push back on me saying this, but that's really how I see it. It feels like a premature thing than you actually countering something. So to me, It's really janky. Like, I don't know any other way to articulate it than that. It would be different if the attack is about to hit you, and then somewhere right before it hits you, you see a red flash. That would be different. But this is quite the opposite. You're seeing it before the attack even happens. So it's very premature, and it doesn't feel like a real counter. And I just don't like that. Some things back in the day, you know, there were limitations, and they made it work. They worked with what they had. Not because they wanted a clunky experience. That's not what they were going for. But now, you know, things have improved, and things should always continue to improve. I really only had 2 things that I didn't care for in this game. So I gave you the first one. Now the second one is an interesting one, because I kind of feel like it makes me wonder if this was a situation where the developers ran out of time, so they had to make adjustments. But it is the recycling of mini bosses, the recycling of enemy sequences, and it happens a lot in this game. And it would be different. I wouldn't see it that way if these were just regular enemies, but they really do recycle the bosses, and you have to fight them again and again and again. And I don't mean you recycling a mini boss like a couple of times. It's more than that. It's quite a bit. And it kind of, I don't know. It gives you the illusion that you're close to the end of the game, and then it turns out maybe you're not as close as you thought. Some of the regular bosses in the game are spectacular, man. And those you do not fight multiple times. So it's only like these mini bosses, I guess you would call them. And some people might be like, well, that's why they're mini bosses. It's like, no, I didn't like fighting some of these the first time. So why do I have to fight them like several times? That's a nightmare. So in conclusion, I think there are aspects of this game that were super ambitious. They at least took chances and risks, and I appreciate that. At least try to go for something, aim for something, and maybe there were some misses. Okay, fine, but at least you tried. You didn't just do the safe route. I really appreciate and respect that. But I think we have finally reached the end of the video. Please let me know where you stand down in the comments. Let me know if you have planned to play this, or if you've already played it. Tell me what you think. I would really like to know what other people are thinking. This is, you know, us as gamers, right? There's a lot of times, yeah, I'm actively following stuff. I'm like knee deep. I'm in the trenches, you know, kind of like Dead or Alive 6 last round. We're not going to speak on that just yet. But my point is that there's a lot of games I'm in the trenches. I'm actively following and everything. And there's some games like this where I'm kind of following stuff. I'm seeing, you know, some pushback, you know, some of the stuff I talked about earlier in the video. But I didn't follow like every little thing in regards to this game. So I would really like to know what people are thinking, how they felt about it. You know, some time has passed, so maybe you loved it and, you know, and that was that, or you were like me and you were like, I don't like the combat, or whatever the case. But for real, if you're a Silent Hill fan, you absolutely should watch Jacob's Ladder. If you haven't already, check that out. It's a good movie. As always, I appreciate you watching the video to the very end. Take care. I'll see you next time.